Welcome to Going In Blind. I'm your host, Zach Tidwell. My guest today began his career as a musician and rose to the point of recording with bands like Queen and Elton John before losing it all to addiction. But he went on to become a clinical psychologist and is now working to help others dig themselves out of the same dark pit he found himself in. Please welcome Dr. Robb Kelly. But before we hop into the show, I do have a couple quick announcements. First, my book is on the way. Some of you may not know this, but like many of my guests, I have a pretty wild story myself. And I've seen through sharing it over the past several years that it can save lives. So I wrote a memoir. I'm currently working through 3 rounds of editing with my editor, and then it'll be out in the world. And if you want a quick overview of my story, you can go back and listen to the trailer for this show or go to my website at zachtidwell.com to read about it. And while you're there, join my mailing list so you can get updates about the book and any other big announcements that I have moving forward. Finally, the best way to help this show grow outside of word of mouth is to follow, rate, and review it in whatever podcasting app you're using right now. Or if you're on YouTube, just subscribe to the show. And if you know someone you think I should talk to, have them send me an email at contact.goinginblind@gmail.com. All right, Robb, I've been doing a thing lately where I try and just jump right into the meat of things with people here. But I think given your professional background, let me know if I miss anything before we get into this. But basically today, you are a clinical psychologist and you have your own business helping people find their own sobriety. I know that's greatly simplifying everything, but you've also dealt with addiction yourself. And that's kind of where I want to start. Because I know this started, this was a family background thing for you that all eventually grew into your own issues and the ones that you overcame. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, back in the day, there was not a lot spoke about alcoholism, especially not drug addiction where I grew up on the projects. But yes, I took my first drink at the age of 9 in
Jeez.
Liverpool on stage with my musical family, and I was playing bass. So yeah, that's when I took my first drink.
And that is actually, I'm really glad that you started there because I was, as I read through your story, I kind of imagined that that's where the introduction, or at least the subjection to a lot, like copious amounts of substances would have come from, was from your musical background. So how'd you even end up on stage as a 9-year-old playing with a band? Like, these were adults, I'm assuming, if they're feeding you
Yeah,
alcohol.
yeah, yeah. They were my auntie and uncle. So musical family. Grandfather was a professional musician. So it was something I did in between school. I just followed my auntie and uncle, and on stage, it was natural for me. So I was given a guitar at the age of 3, I think, and I took to it. So I can play any musical instrument. If it's one I've never seen, give me 10 minutes, I'll get a tune out of it, kind of thing. I can't wire a plug, I can't decorate, I can't take a spark plug out of a car, I can do none of that. But music and getting people well is what I specialize in. So yeah, I've been playing a few gigs before the Liverpool gig, but they were just little pubs. And then we had this gig at a club, and we were behind these, I always remember it, Zach, behind these big velvet curtains. And we're all setting up on stage, and then the announcer comes on, and it was like the curtains parted, but they went up as well. So it's like this dramatic entrance. And then all of a sudden, there must have been about 60 million people there. Oh, that's what it felt like anyway. There was probably 300 or 400, but oh my God, I froze. And my uncle kept coming up and kicking me and nudging me. And we, back in the day, used to play 20 minutes break, 20 minutes break, 20 minutes break. So the first 20 minutes I come off, and my uncle Peter's like, "What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" I said, I don't know what to do." And he gave me the first beer. He said, just drink this, you'll feel good. And I drank it down there, and I tell you, the millions of dollars we spent on research and the years we spent on research. It's like when I asked my friends, "What's allowing your first drink?" "Oh, I was 10. Oh, it's horrible. I spat it out." Not me. It changed my whole being right there and then. And I knew that I would never be nervous or lonely again. It was the weirdest thing. And it
Well,
was true.
Yeah, as a 9-year-old, you just feel this release. I don't right. I mean, it's flooding your system with dopamine. You don't know what it is. You probably, I mean, the closest thing you've ever had to that is probably candy, right? Like the
Yes.
just the
Yeah.
pure sugar. And now you're sitting there killing it on a stage in front of hundreds of people, which is an experience most people will never, most adults will never even experience. Wow. And we're I I I mean, so from there, I would imagine if your uncle's feeding a 9-year-old alcohol to get him to lighten up a little bit, there's probably some other substance issues in your family already at that point.
Yeah, I think I mean, I didn't know then, obviously, or even when I was growing up, I didn't really know, but when I started getting into, the family tree and the family systems work, uh, it was aunties, uncles, mom. Eventually, no one ever diagnosed her, but alcoholism was the only self-diagnosed illness in the world, so it's hard to diagnose somebody, but yeah, it was right through the family, but nobody spoke about it. The problem with me, I'm 64 now. So back in my day, nobody spoke about it, and it's hard to trace um, alcohol back when they don't talk about it. But it's the new generation. Alcoholics are born, and drug addicts are made. So, but what's for this saying if you're tracing your family history back, guys? Oh, and there's not an alcoholic, but grandfather liked to drink. Mm. I found that to be very telling. In today's words, it was grandfather was a staunch alcoholic, but nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, no one saw it as a problem. I mean, they didn't even in the States, at least, they didn't outlaw drunk driving until, like, the '70s or something crazy
Right.
like that.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah, and that's I mean, do you firmly believe that alcoholics are born?
Oh, research tells us, neuroscience tells us we're the leading
Really?
researchers in this. We're the go-to guys for all the rich and famous guys.
Yeah.
Although we always, we do 25% work is pro bono. I always like to say that after saying that because it sounds very ostentatious. But yeah, I mean, we've traced it back to imprinted cells at fetus level with alcoholics. So yeah, we definitely know that for a fact.
That's wild. I've never which is I feel like I should have heard that by now.
No, you've never heard it.
No,
No, we
never.
shot people when we say that, but we have a 98% success rate with over 11,000 patients right now. It's like everybody's concentrating on the alcohol or the drug, and alcohol has 1% to do with alcoholism. So I can stop 1,000 times, but can I stay stopped? That was the thing that got me, Zach, because when I'd lost everything and I was homeless, lost my children and everything, I was angry at nobody could tell me why I could stop drinking. They just stop for your children, just go to AA, gives you all these things, and I couldn't stop. I would be on my knees crying to God to stop me because I knew before I woke up I was going to drink alcohol, and it was the most vicious, horrible, disgusting, disastrous thing that could ever happen to a human body. So I wasn't happy when I come off was, well, the medical furniture just said this. And it's like, no, I'm not having that. I'm not. So I aggressively went into the research, and 30 something years ago, I started. And listen to this, that when I came to America 19 years ago, I think it was, I got my license changed over and I started practicing. And the psychology license board took my license off me. And they said to me that you are harming people with your boogly woogly methods that are not true. You think you can change the brain, you can't change the brain. And it took me 6 months to get my license back. Now it's funny how I lecture to those guys today on alcoholism. It's like I fought a battle upon battle with people going, "That's stupid. That's not right. That's not." But our evidence base, and the reason why I was speaking to Robert Kennedy right now, and the reason why we've hardly ever failed, is because we know what's going on, and it's got nothing to do with alcohol. It's all the neuroscience behind what's going on.
And there's a lot to unpack there. So I kind of want to step back through this stuff because, and it's, again, if I say anything here, it is in the interest of, us discussing it. I'm not I'm not being a
No, please
dickhead.
do.
So yeah,
Yeah.
it just, so before we come back into that, the problem is the alcohol, because I know I've seen your quotes on that as well. And I did want to get into that at some point and we will, but I'm curious with this with the research showing that alcoholics are born. So, I have it on both sides of my family as well. And I'm curious there. Obviously, I did develop alcoholism, but that was through my own inaction in other areas and then self medicating as a problem or as a byproduct of me. I needed an outlet for the things I was going through. And because I wasn't talking about it, it became alcohol and suppressing it. So, obviously, I fit in with that. Okay. Like, yeah. Yeah. Because I wound up becoming an alcoholic, but obviously not all children of alcoholics become alcoholics. So what is it? It can't just be subsequent exposure in a lifetime because there's children of alcoholics who drink and don't develop that same problem. I guess it's some sort of behavioral in my eyes. It is some sort of behavioral and emotional dysregulation, right? Like you are seeking an escape. So I guess, can you speak to that, where the I guess the stemming point is of the alcoholic being born and whether that does progress into it actually presenting or not?
Of course, yeah. So the first thing we look at is the alcoholic or alcoholism is often misplaced. Like Johnny around the corner, he drinks every day. He's an alcoholic. There's so many people who think they're alcoholic, but not. So when we trace alcoholism back, there always is either side of the family. Now, this is the problem. It skips a generation or two, or maybe three, and we don't know why. It skipped my sister, my brother, and I got tagged with it, unfortunately. So when we go back and we look at the reason why it's a disease is not only imprinted cells, but the hypothalamus gets involved as well. So you can drink in a family of alcoholics, you can drink alcohol to a certain point, then you stop and you leave. That point is very early on. My sister and brother can drink no problems at all. So we've got to look at the neuroscience behind this. Alcoholics are born, drug addicts are made. So drug addicts have the addictive personality. How do we know that? Well, 95% of people that come into our office with drug addiction started in their doctor's office. So alcoholism affects three parts of the brain. It affects the basal ganglia. Now, the basal ganglia is our repetition, strength, and confirms part of the brain. And with alcoholic tendencies, this is what happens. If you can imagine a clock face, 12 o'clock, we relapse. 2 o'clock, we try and get our stuff together. 4 o'clock, we go and see the wife. 1:30, I move back in again. 22, I get that job offer. And at 10 to the hour, we self-sabotage every single time. Now, the hypothalamus, which is our survival part of the brain, this is the big one for me anyway. We found out through our trials and testing and research that the alcoholics are born with a different hypothalamus. It's still a survival part of the brain, controls temperature, tells us to drink water, eat food to survive, just exactly the same as everybody else at the beginning. At a certain point of the alcoholic's journey, the hypothalamus turns around and hijacks the brain and tells the alcoholic only, not drug addicts, alcoholics only to drink alcohol to survive. So when the survival part of the brain is telling my prefrontal cortex that the answer to all my problems and the only way I'm going to stay alive on this earth is to drink alcohol, then everything starts to make sense. That's why the kids, the houses, the jobs, they diminish. They're pushed to the back because my brain's telling me to drink alcohol. If that is not fixed with the basal ganglia and the amygdala, where some of the trauma stored as well as the subconscious brain, because alcoholics and addicts hear things differently due to sensitivity uh, during birth, young toddlers, and then through our early teens, the learned behavior and enmeshment from our parents causes that. So unless you treat them three parts, you will always relapse and you probably die.
And with the, I'm sorry, I don't want to lose track of things
No,
here.
no, go, please.
So the amygdala is responsible for fight or flight. So is that why you're saying that is where why trauma gets stored there? Because that is where your body's, where that adrenaline rush is coming from and everything, or what is the reasoning there for, or I guess for that verbiage?
What happens is most of the deep trauma goes straight into the subconscious brain. So the amygdala deals with trauma that you can remember, but the traumas are so deep. We're not when we first got into trauma work and family, which we'll get into later, the family dynamics, we found out a trauma with addiction or alcoholism or depression or Alzheimer or all these facts we deal in. Um, we found out that but everybody hears things different. We know that. But the stuff in the subconscious brain is so painful that the brain shoves it in the subconscious and it protects our brain from insanity. So all the real bad stuff is sunk in the subconscious brain. Now, you can't just sit down with a therapist and that come out. You need certain techniques and software that we use to pull that from the subconscious brain. Otherwise, again, nobody can tell you why they relapsed. They can't give a reason. They give you 1,000 excuses, but not one reason. And the reason they can't give you a reason is they don't know. They don't know about this going on in the brain. So then it becomes natural. What's going on is like do A and B and C will follow. It's just the alcoholic's journey. And once you cross over that heavy drinking into drinking alcoholically, very few times will you ever be able to stop on your own without serious help.
Okay. And I want to come back to one of the things you just said there too, but I don't want to forget my other question about the physiology of this. When you mentioned the hypothalamus kind of driving these urges and that doesn't present in addicts. Is that when that's happening, is that because they're being depressed or I guess decreased levels of dopamine as a byproduct of someone's addiction already? Or is this tying back into, for some reason, with the alcoholic being born?
Yeah, it ties back to the alcoholic being born. But again, what we got to be careful of is tagging that, you're an alcoholic, he's an alcoholic. It doesn't, 10 DUIs do not make you an alcoholic. Warning from doctors, do not make an alcoholic. And you've got to trace it through generationally trace it. Now, does normal life affect it? Well, of course it does. There's lack of the four neurotransmitters, dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins affect it. Of course it does. But so, yeah, you have to look at it from the neuroscience point of view and not from the medical point of view. The medical fraternity has no idea about alcoholism and drug addiction. They just don't know. And the reason why there's not a lot of test trials and research around that is unfortunately in America, if they can't keep us sick, they don't want to know. So if the pharmaceutical companies can't give you a pill or they can't stick you in treatment center time after time after time, nobody's interested. There's no interest in a well fit person because
Yeah.
I know it sounds sick, but you've only got to look at the eating in this country. In fact, don't even get me started on the food industry because that's another 3 hour conversation. I'll be irate or match your hair and screaming.
I'm
But
the same
yeah,
way with it. Yeah, yeah, I get what you're saying.
yeah. So, we've got to look at the whole what's going on, and we come up with this. We can cure, we can cure addiction, childhood trauma, depression, PTSD, anxiety, all the stuff we can cure. Now, we can't cure alcoholism because of the 3 parts of the brain, and we're born this way. So there's no cure for alcoholism, and everyone thinks it's a death penalty, but there's no cure for the common cold or food poisoning. But there are some stuff you need to do to make sure you never get that again. It's kind of the same with alcoholism. There's a set pattern when the brain gets repatterned. We use 9D software for that, subliminal messaging, and different stuff like brain spotting and stuff like that to pull all that trauma out. Once the programmed brain has happened, the childhood trauma is cleared up. The mind is power, it's energy, you can't touch it, feel it. When that energy connects with another energy outside us, our DNA changes. And we're not the same person as we was before. And that's where the magic is. I mean, once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic is not true. It was in the early days, but neuroscience and quantum physics has taken us to a different level.
I'm gonna pause again here because there's 12. This is how these conversations go. I always get 72 questions at a time, and I need to pause and make sure we can get to them so I don't forget. I I agree with what you said about and I think people are becoming more privy to it and the awareness is getting there because there are more voices out there that are highlighting how broken the American medical system is. So I totally get what you're saying in terms of, we don't necessarily want a solution because of the like big pharma, the current structure of big pharma, and especially the medical insurance system in the United States is horrendously broken. It's seems to be very crooked, and so I get that. The other side of that is that how at least how I just understood a a portion of your comments on that is, but you have the solution, and that also makes me skeptical. And again, I'm saying this for the sake of so we can discuss it. I'm not attacking you
Yeah,
here.
of
And
course.
I also you mentioned that you can't sit down with a therapist and get into this stuff. And I got sober through talk therapy, and then, I tried outpatient rehab, I tried inpatient rehab, I tried different medications, and ultimately what it came down to was talk therapy and just something, I finally filled in those holes that were missing in my life so that I didn't need the alcohol anymore. And so I just at face value, I don't necessarily agree with that. And so as we step into here, because you started touching on the technologies that you guys use in these different approaches, and even I know you mentioned that alcoholism is I might not be getting your words correctly here, but basically overdiagnosed. My understanding of alcoholism is that it is when the use of the substance starts to cause negative effects that are affecting the quality of your life and in other areas of your life. And so I want to, as leading into you getting into technology and the other approaches that you guys use, because I'm very interested to learn about this stuff. I mean, that's why I'm having you on. I want to dig into all this stuff. Can you clarify, I guess, what your definition and what you think the definition of alcoholism should be there, and then I guess rebut what else I just said before kind of starting to break down these technologies and these approaches that you guys are using?
When I said normal therapists, what I meant is therapists that don't have any experience in alcohol and drug addiction.
Oh, okay.
That's what I meant.
That makes
Should have
sense.
clarified that. Yeah. So if you haven't been through it, you can't help anybody. I really believe that, and millions of people who are in this industry agree. You don't know how the alcoholic and drug brain works. We think we do, because if we could just stop drinking, or if you can just put the alcohol down for your children, Rob, for your wife, Rob, then we would have done it years ago. So there is a brain reaction from birth that affects three parts of the brain. The traumatic, everybody has childhood trauma. If you don't, you must be living an absolutely perfect life. You must be married to the guy you want. You must be on $1 million a year, two beautiful children, blonde hair, blue. Everybody has childhood trauma. And the easiest way to tell that is look at your life today. If you can't keep relationships, if you're on your seventh marriage, there's something going on with you where your life is not as perfect as it should be. Can everybody be happy every single day? Yes. And people who say that's not possible, my reply is, says who? Who's telling you these things? That's learned behavior. So an alcoholics take their first drink at the age of 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. It sets off a ticking time frame, is what we believe in with our research. So the question to ask a potential alcoholic, first of all, is it in your family? And if they're not in the family, 3 generations back, and people look be controversial, please go and look at my studies. You're probably an alcoholic. Even though it's the only self-diagnosed in the world, you have to get real about it. When alcohol takes over, I would stab you repeatedly in the face if you tried to stop me drinking. That is insanity. That's where we're going. So if you're drinking too much, you're holding down a full-time job, you've got a crap life and stuff like that, go research your family history. If it's not there, you're probably not. If it is there, you probably are.
What
And
would you say there to the fact like that it has to have originated from somewhere? So
correct.
what would you say there if it's not in someone's family history? They're like the what then?
Ah, yes. That is alcohol abuse, which again is that fine line to the normal person out there. Alcohol abuse is something different completely. that guy, there's no family history, there's nothing. He's just drinking every night, every day. For God's sake, grow up, get a grip of yourself, start acting normally, go and see a therapist if you want to, but get your shit together. It's not, you do not have a disease. You're just drinking every day. So people who abuse alcohol look, sound, feel, touch, smell like alcoholics, 100%. But that's the fine line of it.
They
Like
smell like
if you
piss and
can just
beer.
stop, no reason, just get it one day and stop, and that you're not alcoholic. I mean, you are not, and God bless you. I wish I wasn't, but yeah, there's a lot
So
of defining facts that you need to cross up your list. When you take the first drink, can you stop? Any alcoholic will tell you no, not no. Well, what about this? If you come into a bar, this is the guy who abuses alcohol. There's a big shot of whiskey there for you, and there's a gun next to the whiskey. And if you drink one, you got to use the other on yourself. Most heavy drinkers are going to go, no way. Alcoholics are going to say, yeah, all day long. I would take that all day long because it's it's crazy, but nothing else matters apart from drinking. So it goes back to our point that we're trying to prove that the hypothalamus is telling me, here's the crazy part, guys. He's telling me straight alcohol to survive, even though there's a gun next to the bottle that I'm going to kill myself with. But I take the alcohol because my brain is telling me to survive. It's complete insanity.
so for you, I guess with this, because logically, what you've said, like are you trying to say that there is no such thing as alcoholism? Because alcoholism has to have started somewhere with that logic. And is there a point where the alcohol abuse can turn into alcoholism? Because I feel like I'm missing something here.
Oh, beautiful question. You cannot drink yourself into becoming an alcoholic. It's biologically impossible
Why?
because you have to be born this way. And I know that sounds as if I'm repeating what I'm saying, but it's from birth. You are affected from birth with your generational cell and the generational DNA.
But if that's the case, like if you have to be born with it, then that's not possible because alcoholism has to have started somewhere, which means if it wasn't like right there originally there was one person with it, and if they had to be born with it, then that's not possible.
Rephrase that question. I don't know what you mean.
So you're saying that alcoholism is something that you're born with and it has to be, and I like I'm asking because you said, if it's not in a couple generations back, then you're not an alcoholic, you're abusing alcohol. With that logic, I'm saying alcoholism itself has to have started somewhere. So you think that was just like a genetic mutation, or that's what I'm
100%.
trying to understand? Okay.
Well, first of all, nobody's ever asked that question. That's why it threw me a little bit. It had to start somewhere. I believe Noah was an alcoholic, but we won't go that far back. But yeah, I think the more alcohol is introduced into the, like if alcohol came out today, we would ban it immediately. So I think over the decades and hundreds of years, and just I think we've developed into this because we can't trace back to the beginning of man and find out if there's any alcoholism there, obviously. So I think that mutation is definitely the answer to that.
Well, and everyone used to be drunk. It was wine and beer. Like that is
Yes.
beer came from we needed a clean source of drinking water, and they started brewing beers. I've never thought of that, but like that is, yeah, that's an interesting pathway to have. If that truly is where alcoholism originally stemmed from, was just no one used to have it, and then everyone
Yes.
was subjected to alcohol every hour of every day, and eventually that developed. But I mean, that is
Yeah.
also, it is an addictive substance. So that's like
Yes.
saying that, okay, people didn't used to have opioid problems, like,
Yes.
which, so I don't know. I'm conflicted on how to feel about that, but I don't want to drag you into that too much because I feel like I need to digest that. So
Well,
you continue.
if you look at other illnesses, where did ADHD come from? Because that wasn't a thing years ago. It was just I can't concentrate. Now, all of a sudden, the pharmaceutical company gets involved, and all of a sudden, ADHD is a great thing. So we'll give them amphetamine salts.
For a
Every school.
lifetime. Yeah.
So you go back into every kind of illness. I mean, there's a new one on the TV every time I turn the TV on. There's an illness and a medication for it. So yeah, I mean, these days I don't think there's anything. I just think it's pure money making.
Yeah.
Every second person is on meds, but yeah, there has to be some kind of mutation going back and back and back and back to when we first started drinking, because if you look at the actual substance, it's poison. If you look at the actual substance, it damages every time you drink, it damages part of the body. Just like anything unnatural that goes in the body, any drug or anything will have an effect. It's like when you take a drug for a certain illness that you've seen on the TV, it also does like 6 to 7 other ailments. You never get one drug for one thing. It's like it's covered. So we can't really mark today because it's just all for money. It's all about that. Oh, you can take this for, for eyesight, but it also treats schizophrenia, and there's 20 other drugs, 20 other symptoms that it discusses. So I think that's definitely the case over the years and the years.
Yeah, it's an interesting, and
It
I'm sure we could
is. First time anybody's
philosophically.
asked me that, that's a beautiful question, man.
Well, I'm sure we could philosophically follow that as far back as we want. And it is because at the end of the day, that stemmed from, it is a substance that triggers a dopamine response amongst everything else in our body, or amongst everything else that it does to our body. And then, that's
Yeah.
our feel good button. So it's just, I don't know. That's something I'm gonna have to re-listen to this episode. Like think back on that and just kind of sit with it, because it is.
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
thought about the origins of it, I guess. But sorry, I know I derailed you there, but I tried warning you beforehand that is how these conversations go, and that I
No, I love
follow
it, man. I
rabbit
love it.
holes. So, but you were starting to talk about you
Oh,
clarified what you meant about alcoholism. You clarified what you meant about the comments with the therapist, which is actually interesting because my psychologist is also in recovery, and I
there
didn't
you
find
go.
that out. Yeah, so it was just it worked, especially once for a long time, or for a period of time, because I've had her since I shot myself, basically. Once I was stabilized and transferred to the VA hospital, she's been my therapist ever since. So it's been like 6 years. And when I started struggling with alcoholism for a while, she hadn't told me that she ever struggled with it. But once I knew that she did, and when she
Yeah.
told me that, it started. I think it validated everything that she was saying in my mind. I know that's ridiculous because, like, you're going to a therapist, but it is that knowing that she's been through it and overcome it, and it helped. It helped
It
so much.
it it's the mirroring part of the brain. It's the knowing somebody's been through it. It's the knowing to the extent of what your thought patterns and would actually go through. It's the insanity that nobody else sees apart from just stop drinking. It's all this stuff that bodes in to a therapist who knows what she's talking about.
Yeah.
My diplomas from the colleges I've been to mean nothing in my business. It means nothing. It doesn't, if I haven't got experience with that, I cannot even begin to help somebody else. Now, we're only talking about addiction and alcoholism. We're not talking about depression. That's a different thing completely. But when it comes to alcohol and drugs, there's a specific criteria that you need, and that is you have to have suffered or gone through it to know, or really gone
Yeah.
through it with a sibling or a parent. But if
Yeah.
you've been through it yourself, you stand a better chance.
Why do
And
you
I've
think that
always
is?
said this.
You go ahead. Sorry.
No, I've always said this, and it's turned out to be true.
Yeah.
Even with me, I sought out a therapist. Um, I had 3 therapists in line to interview because I got into some. My work is heavy. My work is crazy. I have 4 businesses and all that, so I need someone every month to go to and just shout out, all out, cry out, whatever. But I wanted somebody who understood the way my brain works. So I went to the first guy and I asked him, "Is he an alcohol and drug?" He said no. And I said, "Well, you can't help me." And he said, "Yeah, but I'm looking behind you. There's like 6 diplomas there. I've actually been in school for like 10 years." And so I did the expression I just said. I'm sorry, guys, if this is like in your face, but I asked him, if you had a bottle of vodka behind your back and I wanted it, what do you think I'd do for it? And he said, "Well, you'd probably start shouting at me." I said, "No, I'd take a knife out and stab you repeatedly in the face until I got the bottle." Where? And oh my God. And he wanted to call the police. And okay, so I went to the next one. I was trying to explain to him. I said, the same guy. And he freaked out again. There's no need to be violent. And I went to the third one, and she was a 70-year-old ex hippie. And I did the same thing to her. I said, if you have a bottle and all that. And she said to me, and I stabbed you in the face. Do you understand that? She said, not really, because I stabbed you in the face first. And as soon as she said that, it's like, yes. Somebody else gets it. You cannot just stop drinking because of your children. And nobody understands it. But if you've been through that, you understand that we cannot stop. We cannot stop. We're in full flight of alcoholism, and everything else bodes into that. The four chemicals we need, the behavior, the depression, the PTSD, the alcohol, it all bodes into there's no way I'm stopping.
And for you, because and you've had, I know we barely touched on your time as a musician and in your talents, but uh, I'm curious. One, like, why do you think that's the case? That it is different with addiction as opposed to, like you said, depression or anything else? And then I'm also curious what that turning point was for you, because I know, I mean, you recorded with Elton John, with Queen. I would imagine, again, like kind of like I had touched on earlier when we first started the episode, that in my mind, that's where I had assumed that the exposure to substances really kind of got put on overdrive a little bit. And but like there's there's yeah, I'm curious how all of that occurred for you.
Well, I was drinking most days like you do because everything's good and business is good and blah blah blah, and all of a sudden it turns on you. And it's the same with drug addiction. We can take successfully for a period of time, and all of a sudden it turns on you. But with the hypothalamus being involved, it turns viciously on it, and all of a sudden you find you're out of control. Now, when I stabbed my wife 3 times one night because she wouldn't let me finish my bottle of vodka. Uh, that's
Jesus Christ.
that's
You
insanity. Okay, I left my
you weren't
children in
joking.
theaters, and I've done some horrible stuff when I needed vodka. Yeah, I would shoot you. I no problems at all. I would do that. Um, so I was out of control, but didn't know it, Zach. And here's where the madness is. I didn't know I had a street problem until I was 14 months on the streets.
Do you
14
think
months.
do you feel like any of that was ego because of how high you'd risen as a musician?
100%.
Uh,
The worst thing that happened to me, I have that addictive personality thing, which every single successful person has. Even better if you've come off alcohol and drugs because we're geniuses. But yeah, I mean, it's just we're a different breed. We are a different breed. If you've been through certain things that like you've been through with the horrendous things you've been through, you're a different breed. We come out of it a different breed. We come out with more information. Like if somebody came to you and said, "Man, I need to see my son, da da da," he shot himself in the face, da 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 da. There's only you understand that. I won't understand what. I don't even know how you're going to feel, what it was like. I mean, you have to have that connection of going through it. You just now, if you're counseling someone who's depressed, and we're not talking about that, they're what I call normal therapists do a great job. I love them, blah blah blah. But when it comes to when it comes to the addiction side, it needs to be specific. So while I'm going through rampage with this, uh, I don't think I have a drink problem. I think 'cause the worst thing that happened to me was my wealth, and I grew up on the project. So when I got a chance to do something, I'm all in. Alcoholic, stroke, addicted person. I never do things by half. Never do things by half. So I'm a great believer that anybody can achieve anything they want to do, but we're all tied back by fear and restraints and thought patterns of you're not supposed to do this. And who do you think you are, Rob? You can't go over to America. And you can't go to college and all this stuff that we get through our childhood. Do you remember? I don't know about you, Zach, but when we was at home in England, you used to kick a football around with like 4 or 5 friends. And you used to shout to each other, "Hey, Billy, what do you want to be when you grow up?" "Oh, I want to be a fireman." "What about you, Jimmy?" "I want to be an actor." Do you know what happened to them dreams? They got kicked out of us by our family and friends. "Don't be so stupid. You can't be a footballer. How stupid are you?" All that stuff. That's what happens around us through our childhood, and then we begin to believe that, and we
that even
stick with
happens as
that.
adults. Yeah, like don't take the chance to start your business, right? Like, yeah, it still
But then the
happens.
twist on that for people is when we're toddlers, and especially with alcoholics and addicts, who's more sensitive. When we're toddlers around the kitchen and mum says, "Don't put your hand on the stove, it's hot," and we put our hand on the stove and we burn ourselves. What does the child learn from that? It learns that whatever mum says is the gospel, it's the truth. So I'm going to do what mum says. However, we carry that through our teens and 20s and 30s. We get surrounded by people who are using us, abusing us, telling things that are not true, and we freaking believe it because we've not had to the contrary. So we get hurt as we grow up. And the biggest saying, of course, is show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And we hang around the people that we attract and vice versa. So if I hang around 9 depressed people, I'm going to become the 10th. That's it. We've tried and tested and researched this. It's easy for 9 people to change one person completely in 4 minutes, 5 minutes at the most. We've done the experiments in the office where it's harder to change 9 people if you're just one. So you have all this growing up, and you have to look at who you're surrounding yourself with and who you're taking information and limited beliefs and, putting brakes on imagination. If you think for a second, guys, when I was homeless begging for money, that I would end up where I am now, it it's impossible, right? Well, the answer is no, it's not. It really isn't. But you have to find out what you're suffering from. You have to have full knowledge of what you're suffering from. So when medical doctors go, oh, just stop taking drugs, you're an addict, or hey, just stop drinking alcohol, you have to have a full knowledge of what's going on before you can even attempt to fix it and understand why you need to fix it with the information that people before us educated, that's been through the ringer, that's all this stuff that we talked about before has happened for us to accept the help. And that's why alcoholics are dying on a daily basis and drug addicts, because nobody knows the answer. Nobody wants to help. You're worthless to the medical fraternity if you haven't got insurance and the pharmaceutical. You're useless, man. So 9 out of 10 times we see guys with PTSD who served our country on the streets dying of alcoholism and addiction, and nobody's doing nothing about it.
Yeah, and it's a lot of that stuff too, and you get head injuries added into that on top of, and it's just, and I think it's a much more common problem than you would realize. But specifically, like the one thing you've touched on a couple times here, and like I want to drive home because I think it really ties into everything that you just said. Is again, it comes back that insanity of the addiction, like, and having like outside people who haven't dealt with it. And I talk about this with the mental health stuff, specifically suicide, right? Like there's a lot of thoughts on suicide and people reaching that point. But I try and drive home the point that when you have reached the point in life that you think the only way out of whatever circumstances you're in is to end it, you are obviously no longer in a sane state of mind. And the addiction absolutely does that. That's where that not understanding how the hell you drank again comes from. That's where whatever, why the fuck did I stab my wife over a vodka bottle, where that
Right.
comes from. And
It's insane. Absolutely. And the
yeah,
thing is, when I stabbed her, I took the bottle, I started to drink it. I went to the front door where the phone was. The phone used to be connected to the wall many years ago. And I called a taxi and I called the ambulance and the police. I went and the taxi arrived first because it's just around the corner. When I heard the sirens, I get in a car and escaped to Spain. I flew to Spain because there was an attempted murder charge out on me. That's fucking insanity. But it made sense to me. And it makes
well,
sense
and
to
you
every
just
other alcoholic and drug addict out there that when they're
yeah,
desperate enough, normal people don't do that.
and you want to keep that bender going, right? Like if if they
100%.
if I
You know?
go yeah, if I go into the station now, I'm not gonna be able to keep drinking, and like
Do you know?
that's
Oh
not a
my
fucking
God.
option.
Oh my God. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Nobody's ever said that to me, but that feeling, Zach. If I was going to get arrested, I'd run into the nearest bar and drink as much as I could before they could arrest me. Oh my God. That's
yeah,
so true. So true.
yeah.
Damn.
It's just
That,
it's
that brought
in.
back something there. It's like, wow, that's, ooh,
Oh, tell me
man.
about it.
I got that feeling of, yeah, if anything's going to happen, I still have dreams now. Okay, let's get to stuff I've never said after doing thousands of these. I still get thoughts now of if I, oh God, oh guys, they're not real thoughts. They're just like these things, these crazy things that happen. That if I was to do something to my wife, or something happened, an accident, and she died, I would literally get in the car and I would speed to the nearest bar and I would call the police from there. Because as long as I could get drinking before anybody arrested me, I'd be okay. That's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
How long
Yeah.
have you been sober now?
It's been a few years. I never give my sobriety date, and I'll tell you why. Um, I don't think years makes a good teacher. I think time means nothing to me. It really doesn't. And that's not because I just got sober yesterday. It's just when you go through the 30 odd years of doing this, you realize that when your AA sponsor of 35 years sobriety takes you home, drugs you coffee, and molests you in bed while you're out unconscious, then that 25, 30 years of sobriety doesn't mean shit to me, you know? So it's the quality. It's like
Yeah.
when people ask me, I say, "What do you reckon?" They go, "Well, you're very confident. You know a lot about it." Blah blah blah. He says, exactly. You
I
know,
mean,
we're very
yeah.
smart people.
Yeah. And I wasn't trying to get like oh, this guy's got 2 years. He doesn't know shit. I was asking, and I do think duration does matter with to an extent, right? With sobriety, but I think or I was originally asking. I've got a friend whose dad has been sober for over 30 years, and I asked him at some point within the last year. He picked me up from the airport and brought me home, and I had because I'm at like a year and a half sober now, a little more, and so I think it was right around my year mark, and I asked him, I was like, I still and it's gotten easy to turn it down, but I still regularly get these wild thoughts for like no reason to just want a drink with like no reason. I at least used to be able to make an excuse out of something when I would drink, and like now I'll just get it. There's just like a passing thought of like, oh, I'm gonna have a drink, and as I asked him, and he said I still get those,
Yeah,
30 plus years later for
I
no
agree.
reason, and it's
Yeah,
just that's why I had asked because it is like with you saying that you have those thoughts, man. I mean, it is.
yeah. They'll never go away. You know,
Yeah.
and the reason they'll never go away is we're always going to have self-sabotaging thought patterns, and self-sabotage yours is to drink and die. I mean, that's just natural. So you're always. It's like a V in the road. To the right is the old freeway, and we used to use that every single day to get to oblivion. Now we're building another freeway on the left, and the more we travel down the freeway on the left, the more the one on the right gets used less and less. And then there's bricks on it and moss, and you can still travel down it, but you'd rather travel down the new freeway. But now and again, your mind goes over there, especially if it's idle, or you've got nothing to do that day, or a fleeting thought or something. But yeah, our studies show that I don't think we've interviewed one person that hasn't had that or doesn't still have that thought. Because it's still there, it's still always going to be there. Neural pathways don't die. Sorry, neural pathways don't shorten. You remember everything you did in the past. 300 neural pathways die every day. And the question is, what are we replacing them with? And that's when the new thought patterns, the new patterning, the work that you've done gives us that drive to head down the left-hand side freeway and stay away from the right-hand side. But
Yeah.
it's there. I could get up right now, Zach, and if I got up one day and went, because there's a lot of pressure in what I do, the TV, the fucking high profile people, the NDAs for 10 million fucking dollars. It's all that about. I could just get up one day and go, fuck it. I'm done. I'm fucking done. I'm going to drink. Always there. Always there.
I would imagine with so some of the people you deal with, I'm sure every once in a while you get someone who's famous and has a bit of an ego and is hard to deal with, to where you're like, man, yeah, maybe I should just go fucking drink. Like, it just, I don't
We
know.
had, when I first started it, um, started working with most of the major actors, TV stars, movie stars, and all that. Eddie Van Halen, you know, got a written consent to tell his story because we still, well, before he passed, we still used to laugh about it. And I went to the airport to pick him up, and I'd only been in this country about a year. I didn't know who Eddie Van Halen was, because I'd never heard of him in England. We had different genres over there, but I waited for him, and he came out and he walked to me. He said, "Dr. Robb." So I said, "Yeah." He said, "It's Eddie Van Halen." So I said, "Oh, brilliant. Okay." And he looked at me and said, "Shouldn't this be the other way around?" I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Shouldn't you recognize me?" And I put my case down. I said, "Okay, here's the deal. Why don't you get back on the plane and fuck off back to your house and continue what you're doing? Because with an attitude like that, I don't give a shit. But we've already paid. Oh, I don't give a fuck whether you come on board or not. Let's just put that out there. I don't care, because if you can't follow directions, I'm not interested. By the way, you're not getting your money back. It's no money back guarantee, period. You're done. You're finished. What do you want to do? So there's plenty of people that try it. But the reason why I do this today is I can still give back and still help the people. And I'm sick to death of watching people die. over lack of knowledge. That's what drives us today.
Yeah, and that's and I wonder with that even, that almost seems like, he could have been that's like a test, right? He's punking you to see like, all right,
Yeah.
what kind of man is this
Lot
guy a
yeah.
little bit? Because I'm sure, I mean, that's a cartoonish level of fame to where you're probably just used to being able to get away with whatever the fuck you want and talk to whoever you want, however you want, and it's
Yeah.
just
It's
so.
more rife than you would imagine with these guys. I mean, 9 out of 10 times we arrive at their house, there's attorneys there, there's bodyguards there, all this shit. You got to control that rigmarole again. And at the end of the day, I don't give a shit if you want us to vet you well. See, we're the only company in the world that offer a money back guarantee if you relapse. That is insane, you know? So, and I tell people this, that, you know, I was watching a movie once, we got a call, it's the guy that I'd just been watching this amazing movie, travel over there, and it's just me being honest, you know? If you don't wanna do this, then I'm not your guy, you know? Because I
What's
really don't give a shit if people come on board or not. It's not my deal. But if you are, then you my deal. If you're not, I don't gotta lose any sleep. You'll never hear from us again. We're not gonna chase you. We've turned millions of dollars down from movie stars and singers and all sorts of stuff. We thought we were too cocky, and it's like, no, we don't play that shit. You know, we just don't. I mean, I have something that not a lot of people have, and that is enough. I have enough in my life. I don't have to go chasing you. I don't care. We have something that works. We'll give you your money back if you relapse. You have to follow our program, of course, the regimented program of morning work and nighttime work. We'll refund your money. No problems at all. And people freak out about that. The catch is there is you have to pass an assessment for us to take you on. We're not going to take you on if mom and dad's playing and you're just trying to keep them quiet or you know, not the wife wants to go. Not going to do it, man. And I will find out in that hour's assessment whether you're serious or not. And if you're not serious, I ain't taking you, man. I ain't taking you. None of my guys will.
and that's the reality with addiction in general. I mean, it is that's the sad part is like when you see someone needs help, you cannot help them until they want to be helped. And
Yeah.
that's as shitty as that is, and as much as it sucks, like it really is. And I try and talk about that too, where like it's I think for the people around those struggling with the addiction, a lot of times that can be, that's a tough spot to put your to be in. But and to some extent, after a period of trying to make that person seek help and trying to help them, get connected with that help, if it's still not helping, like sometimes you have to set those fucking boundaries and be like, look, if you don't fix your shit, you're gone and I'm gone. Like it's one or
Yeah.
the other. I had that happen with me, and I did that. What for you was it? Obviously, I mean, you were homeless by that point and had been for an extent. So it sounds like you'd already kind of all the consequences of your actions from your addiction had already taken place, but that before you finally decided that you were ready. But is that also through your career in the music industry? Is that how you got into working with celebrities down the road?
So my working with celebrities was before I was homeless. Uh, they put me through college, but no, I have an intriguing mind that I've said before. We have this mind. We either do whatever we do. You're either pregnant or you're not. We're either in or we're out. We don't do things by half measures, and this is where people with illnesses I used to suffer from don't understand that once we get clean and sober of that shit, we're geniuses, man. So the reason why it all came about, the Abbey Road thing, is I'm gigging in bands after the family split up, and I'm out at the age of 15, 16 playing in bands and all that stuff, and a typical, and still is today. You pack 2 grand's worth of equipment into a $1,000 car. You drive 100 miles to get $20 pay. I mean, it's just a loving musician. So one day, my friend said to me, "Hey, I can't make this session at the recording studio. Can you step in for me? It's just site works, bass playing, site works. It's 3 songs." And yeah, no problems. Like, what does it mean? Like, and so I went down. Hey, well, thanks for stepping in, putting studio headphones on, 3 sheets of music, click track, da 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 da. And I did it in, like, I don't know, say 20 minutes, all 3 tracks. I took the headphones off, he come home, he gave me an envelope, he thanked me for my time, I packed my guitar, I walked out, I got in the car, I opened the envelope, and I cannot remember that. But let's say I was getting $5 a gig. There was like $600 in the envelope, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And I went back in and said, "Have you made a mistake?" And he said, "No, this is for blah blah band, and it's highly paid. Thank you for coming in." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm never gigging again. This is bullshit." You know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Are you kidding? So I applied for a session musician job, and that was Strawberry Studios, which was 10cc's first studio in Stockport, Manchester. And from that, I think it was the Melody Maker magazine, which was a musicians magazine. I saw a bass player session, a bass player wanted at Abbey Road, and I applied for it. And after 7 auditions, I got it. You know, so that's how all that came about. I mean, which was funny, really. This is the alcoholic mindset, and alcoholics out there, you'll really identify. So when I went birth town, I'm so nervous. And back in the day, you get your guitar, you get on a train, you know, you travel to London and all that crap that you have to do. I was outside the recording studio, and there used to be like a newsagent's liquor store, and I got one beer. So I drank the one beer before I went in. Then you come out, get back on the train, go home, and a few days later, you might get a call or a letter. I got the second interview. I went down to Abbey Road. I'm stood outside, and I thought, if I did it, so I'll have 2 beers today for the two second auditions. I had 7 freaking auditions for that. I had 7 beers before I walked into that freaking studio. Okay, I don't remember playing the track, Zach. I blacked out, and I got back on the stage. And about 2 days later, they called me and said I got a job. What does that tell me? When I drink alcohol, I'm a success. And that's how it all came about. And again, it was like everything in my life is slotted in the way it's supposed to slot in. And the bad points were always meant there, because when somebody comes to me today, the diplomas on the back of my wall at the office doesn't mean nothing. What was the Harvard University semester for me was my homelessness. What I learned on the streets of the depravity of addiction, and the lens that we go to. That's the stuff that people connect. But we teach entrepreneurs, we teach podcasters. We don't only do psych work with alcoholics, or we help people build business with the mindset that you can achieve anything you want to achieve.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with that, but I think where people the disconnect there for people is that they don't want to do the work. Whether and I don't mean that just in the addiction sense. I mean that in the sense of achieving things. Like it really does. People know that that's possible, and when when the conversation comes up of, okay, how can I do that, or how did you do that, or what are the steps to do that, it is always like, okay, yeah, you probably knew the fucking answer beforehand, but you didn't
Right.
want to do the work. And are you still going to sit there and
Yeah.
not do the work, or
And
are you?
still want to be successful.
Yeah.
I always say to people, I have a lot of stuff. I have cars, houses, all that. I mean, I have all of that. And I have to say, people are jealous about what I have, but they're not jealous how I got here. No one's
Mm,
jealous of that part. No one's jealous of the, ruining people's lives. No one's jealous of the crying yourself to sleep because you can't see your 2 girls. No one's jealous of that.
yeah.
But I set out to succeed. That's what I do.
I wanted to ask earlier, I know that this is a random question, but since you mentioned your family again, because you'd mentioned stabbing your wife, but you also mentioned her, like your crazy thoughts on if something ever happens to her, are you guys still together? Is that the same wife?
Oh, no, no, no.
Okay.
Yeah, when I got back from Spain, she packed everything, and she was on the door waiting for the taxi to arrive, drop me off. I watched in the house, and the children were there, the mother-in-law were there, and they all left. And I was so angry that it's like, you can't do this to
At
me. Do you
them?
know who I am, kind of thing. So
Whoa.
she got in the car. I got my attorney, and I said, "Hey, here's the deal. You get to court first thing in the morning, ask the judge so and so, get some paperwork and get my kids back." And that's exactly what he did, Zach. And I was 3 days sober, and he brought him in. I give him his check. He brought him in. I put him down in front of the television. Uh, and I walked into the kitchen, and I thought, you know something? I was going to have one beer to celebrate the kids coming home. I'll show her, kind of thing. The one beer was the last thing I knew for two days, where I was in blackout. They'd not been fed or changed diapers for 2 days. and they would kill them children. So the first thing I knew is the policeman's kicking me up, awake. There's bottles all over the place. Two kids are crying. Two kids are crying, and he served me with unfit father papers. And I stumble to the door, and the mother-in-law has the young one, and my wife has the eldest one, Charlotte, and she's holding Mummy's hand. And they're walking down the path, and she turns to me and says, "Daddy, Daddy, please don't go." I was crying, one of the police officers crying. Halfway down the path, she says, "Daddy, Daddy, please get better." And as they got to the big wrought iron gate, it opened, and my daughter turned around, and she says, "Daddy, Daddy, please stop drinking."
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it, Zach. I couldn't do it. And weeks later, that's when I spent my first night on the streets. So when people say, "Can you just give up because of your kids?" It's like, I knew there was something more to this shit. I knew there was. And that's when I got angry and decided I want to find out exactly what's going on. So here's the deal. So 4 years ago, after 30 years of not seeing my daughter, she messaged me on Messenger early in the morning. It's probably 2 or 3 o'clock. And she says, "Hey, Dad." And she called me Dad, Zach. Still like that.
After 30
Still like that
years.
text. Uh, I want to see you. I've got something to show you. I don't believe what everyone's telling me all these years. Can you come back to England? So we have people around us, of course. So within 4 or 6 hours, we're on a plane heading back to England. We get in a hotel, we stayed overnight, and we're walking around to her house the next day. And every single thought in the world from my subconscious brain was screaming, "You're a piece of shit. You don't deserve to be here." Got to the door, my fucking wife's holding me up. I couldn't knock on the doors. I couldn't just. And she opened the door quickly, and we hugged and we cried and we laughed. Seemed like an hour, but probably 2 minutes. And then she took me over my hand and she walked me into the living room and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter. That
Wow.
same girl, my daughter, is my lead therapist in my Manchester office, UK today.
Wow. She ended up becoming a psychologist.
Yes. Who
Um,
she works for me, so she only deals with alcoholic. We have a big family system, which is different to everybody else. She deals with the kids and the wives of the alcohol. And I deal with it with the patients, and all my therapists and coaches do, but she deals purely with the families
because she's been through it.
as she's been through it. Yeah.
Did you not go to prison for stabbing your wife?
No, back in the day, if she all of a sudden dropped the charges, there's nothing the police could do because she didn't die. That makes sense. Yeah, I
Jesus.
know. So she dropped charges. I got my attorney on it, did the thing that I came. That's how I came back. Otherwise, I would never come back. I don't think they had a treaty thing with Spain back then, but yeah, it's crazy. And then of course 6 weeks ago, my youngest daughter called me. So
Who
everything is
did?
back. My younger daughter, Abigail.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So she
Well,
doesn't remember any of this. She was 1 year old when all this shit happened.
which is probably better for her, right?
Yes.
Like, oh, dude, your daughter, man. I honestly, your older daughter, like, I would be interested in speaking with her too. That just,
Oh, what a
I'm,
great idea.
yeah, I just, well, I'll have to get your, or her information from you, obviously, assuming that she'd be interested, but like, holy shit, dude. I mean, like, with that, you struggling to stand outside of her door, was that fear? Was that hope? Like, what do you remember? Like, were you even
Oh, that's
able in your body still?
I remember as if it was yesterday. It was downright fear, shame, guilt. That when people, I don't know if you heard the saying, but when you're full of shame and guilt, you can't walk, and your whole body. That's what it was like. And my wife had to hold me up. I didn't deserve this. Um, Someone to like me, I let her down. I wasn't there for her first. All this stuff within like 10 seconds is rushed through my mind. I wasn't there for her first bike ride. I wasn't there for her first boyfriend. All this stuff was like, my subconscious brain was running wild. So yeah, it was just pure shame, shame, man, of fear and guilt and all that stuff. It just crippled me.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, you basically like you were the father to her, and now you get to be.
I was more in shame. And I died twice on the streets in Manchester, and they brought me back to life.
Was it drugs?
It was alcohol. I never had a problem with drugs.
Okay.
Uh, that feeling on her steps goes way beyond the feeling of being alive, getting a second chance. Because when I walked in and she handed me my 3-month-old granddaughter, it was like, oh, okay, God, I'm done now. Yeah, you can take me now, you know? And it was like everything I'd done, all the pro bonos, all my house got foreclosed on in after 2 years of being in my apartment because I couldn't afford to pay anybody and I was working with people free of charge. All that stuff that I've been through, all the pain, all the heartache, all the jealousy, all the, people putting me down, oh, it was just all worth it right there and then. Because it's hard that when you've got something that everybody else laughs at, and people go, "That's just impossible. That's just you're lying. That's not possible." That's why we introduced the money back guarantee thing. In fact, people are like, "You fucking insane." No, with neuroscientists or psychology, we know what we're doing when it comes to the psych. We know what we're fucking doing, and we're going to back that with the biggest thing in the world that we could back you, and that is money. We will give you your money back, and it's not cheap to come here. Like it's 6 figures a month to come here
Jesus
for the
Christ.
guys that I deal with 4 people, and they're usually the high profile people. So it's four people a month to come here. So it's 3 month program. So it's a lot of money. And then we started like 5 and 10 grand for the other people that my other guys see. So after all of that, I knew I was doing something right. I knew I believe in God. Okay. Because that's a huge spiritual icon on the streets. It's the reason why I'm here today. I believe in God, and I believe He takes us through this shit so we become better teachers and healers. And that's how I think this thing's work. And when you start working with people and healing people and getting people well, um, He starts giving you stuff back, man, and stuff that you could never even imagine. I mean, I it's insane what I have today. But I just spent $300,000 on a car. How fucking insane is that? Okay. One, I could afford it and pay cash. But two, and this is what I always practice with this, guys. I'm always the street guy. I'm the guy in the streets that never had no money from the family, didn't go anywhere, was so poor that sometimes, most of the time, I had to go next door and ask for some bread. 25% of my income goes back into society of people that help. Me and my wife give $150,000 out of our own bank account for people around America and the UK. People that need a second chance, dads that want to see the kids weekend, but they got to go to court to do it. We'll pay the apartment for a year. We'll buy a suit. We'll pay his legal fees, all that stuff. So I'm only sat on top of the world here with all this crazy stuff that I own and really enjoy because it's not my first thing. After everybody's paid off and everyone's good and we've done all that stuff, then I get, well, I've got this, I've always wanted this, so now I'm going to buy it. But if there's a choice to buying that car or the family around the corner going, a week without food, fuck the car. You know, for being of service is my number one thing. I bless somebody monetary every single day I lose a house because I'm blessed enough to have this money. It's not my money, it's God's money. I treat people, help people, love people all the time when I go out and meet them. You always remember when you've met me because you'll walk away with a smile on your face. That's my number one job. The rest of the shit keeps my wife happy and pays the mortgage.
Well, does God like his new $300,000 car?
No, I fucking do. I don't because
What'd you get?
and I got the new Bentley Speed. So
Jesus,
it's the
I don't know what that looks like, but God, I got to ride in a Corvette for the first time, a brand new Corvette the other day, and like I had a
nice.
boner for like 2 days after, so can only
Yeah.
imagine. But
It's crazy. I just,
uh,
he delivered and I got it. Was just it's best tire. It's like 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds. It does 211 miles an hour. It's got all the sport that
Jeez.
you need, but it's got the Bentley of everything that's over Zoria. So, it's nice. I love it to bits and I'm blessed to have it. But after everybody was paid out and all the donations were made properly, then I bought it. That's
Well,
what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
It's very hard in my like when I fly to Hollywood and I'm doing, either the doctors or other stuff that I do. You go on stage, there's millions of people watching. You come off, it's been a great success. sometimes that can go to your head. I don't care who you are. When you're flying on private jets, I do that all the time. They send planes for me, and I don't mean like two-seater planes. I mean G500s for me, like a $50 million plane for. It's I have to really concentrate to keep my feet on the ground and realize I'm the kid from the projects that did good. That's all I am. I'm nothing special. I never will be anything special. The only thing special about me is I can get people well and I can play music, and that is it. I have no other skills. I can't build a house. I can't paint a wall. I can't change a spark plug in. I have no idea how to do it. My brother does all that. I can't do that. But yeah, I just love people's not only people's faces, but the family system that we do is different to anybody else, and the family when they get involved. So our research does this as well. Let's say the guy's the alcoholic. When the alcoholic passes the assessment, the wife and anybody over the age of 18, daughters or sons in the house, must come on for 2 days a week. If they don't come on to work on their stuff, we won't take in. Because what we found is when the family comes on, uh, especially the wife comes on, the success rate of the patient goes up by 42% alone.
Well, yeah, because there's got to be dysfunction in that house.
Correct. And
Yeah.
what trainers tend to do is they bring the family in, and then the dad comes in, and then the family like, well, you did this, and you did that, and it's like, no, that's doing no good. And we always get this: the wife will come over, it's not my disease, it's not I'm doing nothing, it's him. He needs to get fixed. And then we say stuff like, well, if it's not your problem and you're not suffering from PTSD or anything, why do you allow your husband to come 2 or 3 nights a week and punch you in the face in front of your children? And then the waterworks start. And it's like the realization that family dynamics is different. You have to work on your part. We teach you and a different language in recovery. We teach your patient a different language. So you come together. You both swim to your own rafts while you're getting well. And we pull you together. So when you finally come together psychologically and emotionally, you're both on the same page. You're both speaking the same language. Because recovery has a different language, if you know what I mean. So that's one of the things that we found that's very, very successful. And they have to do the 3 months, just like the husband does every single day for 90 days. They have to do 2 days a week. And the daughter over here, she'd done it. And if someone said, I don't want to do it, we won't tell the patient.
Are you
We
guys
just won't.
publishing this research?
Yeah. So it's really funny because I can't say too much right now, but our new health minister, who we spoke to, is has shown an interest in what we're doing right now. Let's put it that way.
Okay. You'll have to keep me posted, man. I'm
Wonderful.
curious to see where it goes. But
Yeah.
so, where are you guys actually based out of now?
So I live in San Antonio, Texas now. So we have San Antonio, we have Dallas, we have Manchester, England, London, England, Switzerland, Spain.
Damn, dude.
Yeah, we're a multi-million-dollar company. We do a lot of things. We've just done, as of 6 months ago, we've got this what's called 9D software, which is subliminal messaging. We just started to look at that, and we've taken on 2 dementia patients in the last 6 months. They've been everywhere, very wealthy people, tried everything, been to every doctor. Uh, as of 2 weeks ago, they were clinically retrialed again, and their short-term memory has boosted back to 30% increase.
So you're having them watch stuff, and there's things coming on the screen that is in such rapid little stints that it's not even being processed consciously. Is that what it is?
No, 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 not the visual. It's we have this software. It has headphones and a blackout mask, and it's a main voice speaking, just like a meditation thing, blah blah blah. And then we have 63 tracks. It's just you get subliminal messaging from 9 dimensions around you. So where you're not hearing that being placed, it works for entrepreneurs, business guys, podcasters, sick people, addicts. The subliminal messaging is the key. And then we have stuff like brain spotting, which is to pull all that childhood trauma of the subconscious brain. To this.
Yeah, I,
It's amazing.
I wanted to ask you about that because I was reading about that, and it's seems like it's a parallel to EMDR.
Yeah, what we found
Richter.
with the NDR is a few people, because of sensitivity, like sensitivity, we couldn't do. So it this was born, I want to say about 14 years ago. One guy come out with it, and it was that successful. The medical fraternity started to look at it, And I contacted him direct and said, I'm really interested. So I got trained on brain spotting by the founder of brain spotting. Now, the other stuff that we use, I got trained from the Meadows experts when it comes to somatic experience. So I always go to the best in the world to get trained. Doesn't matter how much it costs me. That's what I'll do. I want firsthand knowledge of this stuff that can help me heal people.
Yeah. So can you explain for everyone what, I guess, first, what the practice of applying these brain spotting techniques looks like? And then I'm also curious, I mean, somatic experience almost sounds like fluffy language, right? Like that is a physiological, and I hear that and I'm like, okay, that's a physiological experience. I know there's got to be more to it than that. So can you kind of talk me through both of those?
Let's start with somatic experience. It's been around for years and years and years, hundreds of years. Um, it's basically learning how to listen to your body, and the most simple one I can explain is the gut feeling. So let's say you're gonna relapse, or you're gonna do something else. Something's gonna happen. Your body tells you a week or maybe 2 weeks before. You never relapse on a Friday. So alcoholism will never come on a Friday and go, "Hey, Rob, let's have a drink." It doesn't do that. Your whole body changes at least a week before. So traumatic experience is learning to listen to the body. The gut feeling is the easy one to explain. The gut feeling is real. Goes back to the tribal days when one of the tribesmen at night would get a gut feeling there's either something good or something bad. So the rest of the tribe would either get ready to fight or they would rebase, flee somewhere else. It's a bit like that, where you have to start listening to the body, understand what the body's, make sure you're feeding it well, make sure you're healing well, because the body will tell you everything well before your mind does. That's somatic experience. It's been
And
around for so long and it really works, but we pulled away from it about 20 years ago. We stuck in the same category as meditation, and it's way beyond meditation. Uh, Brain spotting is a single tool like a wand, if you will, or a pen. Anything, guys, you can see it on the screen. Anything like that. And the idea is you move the pen from right to left, so it's like EMDR with no flashing lights. Now, with a quiet room, and you keep going, you just eyes are following. Every now and again, you're asking questions, and your eye will flicker. When it flickers, it's touched something in the subconscious brain that
so
then don't
you
know.
are watching for that when you're doing this.
Yes.
Okay.
So see a flicker, you hold the one there,
Mhm.
and you say, "Is it coming up for you?" No, stay there. That might take an hour. I don't give a shit. And eventually, oh, my dad's coming up. Oh, oh my God, I think my dad molested. It's mind blowing.
And then you talk through it, I'm assuming, with like
Then we talk to,
traditional
yeah,
techniques.
yeah,
Okay.
additional techniques of uncovering, discovering, and discarding of that piece of information that's been ruining your life.
Is the idea there and the mechanism behind that because you're drawing the conscious mind to paying attention to the light that it lets other stuff, like then they can't suppress it? Is that
Definitely.
what's okay?
That's it. So everything's stored in the subconscious mind. That's bad. Everything. So the conscious mind is today. That's all we have. My life is today. Your life's today. It's not tomorrow, and this day's gone. That's what you don't understand. We don't have time. It's today. The subconscious mind wakes us up in the morning. Everybody, every morning. And the reason why it does is the subconscious mind loves hypoxic situations. Well, in a normal circadian sleep pattern, between 2 and 5 o'clock is when the body is at its most repair. It's when most people die of natural causes also. So the body is really low on oxygen. So when we wake up in the morning, and the only reason why nobody's woke up laughing in the morning is lack of oxygen. So the subconscious brain is wide awake with you. That's the guy that wants to kill you and make it look like an accident. Make no mistake about it. That's what all the bad shit is. The waste of time piece of shit. We get rid of that straight away. Okay. And we ignite the conscious brain. When the conscious brain is fed with oxygen, the subconscious brain will disappear for 24 hours only because different parts of the brain reset every 24 hours. But the conscious brain, first thing in the morning, ignites. Now we can achieve anything. Now we can believe anything. Now we're going to go out the day and kill it. That's just one thing of several things we have to do every morning. And, it's the 20 exaggerated breaths in and out. So when we say breath work, oh, yeah, I've done breath work. No, it's not. It's not like the box breathing. This is get as much oxygen in your body first thing in the morning. So we do 20 exaggerated breaths in and out. Really is make a stupid face when you're intaking the air. That what that does automatically, first of all, to make you dizzy because the brain has never had so much oxygen, which bears that when you go to the gym or you go cycling or running, you feel great. It's not the exercise, it's just in between sets, getting the oxygen inside you. First drag of a cigarette, it's not so much the bad, it's the oxygen. We only walk around breathing 45 to 50% of our lung capacity. And that's why the presence of oxygen equals the lack of disease. Every single disease in the human body, including cancer, grows in a hypoxic area of the body. So if we're only breathing 45% of our lung capacity, which we do, then the most of the body, most of the day, starved of oxygen. So you need to do this several times. Gary Brecker's a really good friend of mine. We share patients. He swears by this. I've tried it. There's a huge difference in all the patients that we work with. Next, we go into the bathroom. If you brush your hand with the right hand, week on the left, week on the right, week on the left, a week on the right for a month. Changing your pants, changing them pattern behaviors that we have every single day. We get up, we have a shower, we have a coffee, da 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 da. We got to change all that stuff up. You can't be repeating the old behavior. So go back to the 300 neural pathways dying every day. We're replacing them with new behaviors, with new actions. Next, stand in front of the mirror, stand 6 feet away from the mirror and say, I love you 10 times. Like, start sucking that conscious and subconscious brain of good stuff, not bad stuff. Don't stand close up to the mirror because you see all your blemishes. That's not how people see you
And
when you
because
go out the door.
the
When you step
mirror will catch
6 feet away.
COVID if you do
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
All the blemishes go, and that's how people see you in real life. That's how the compliment you'll get.
Hmm. Man.
So that morning routine is vital. You got to watch what you're putting in your body, obviously. So there's four chemicals need to happen every single day for us to be happy. This is why they can be 10 out of 10 every day. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. We know that. Everybody knows that. Okay. Did you know that dopamine and serotonin, the two crucial neurotransmitters, are created in the stomach? So if you're not eating correctly, if you're eating McDonald's every day, the neurotransmitters for them two chemicals will not happen. And that causes depression. That causes the behavior. That causes all this stuff we go through and we don't know what's going on. So you need to understand as well fully what you're suffering from, how you're going to get out of it, and how to maintain that. The human body is absolutely amazing. And most of us don't know. 99% of people on this earth don't know how powerful the mind, and so it's mind over matter, mind being energy, the brain being matter, mind over matter. It's the mind that can change the patterns in the brain, not the brain. It's the mind. So if you want something, if you want to get better and build a business, you've got to start hanging around the people that are doing that already, because the mind will take in the bonding between the mirroring part of the brain, the minds, and the mind over matter. It'll program the brain wherever you want to go. Like I said, let's say you want to earn $1 million. It's not that hard. It's hard staying sane while you do it, but you've got to put the work in, like you said, Zach. But it's not that difficult once you realize how the mind works and how to program it. It really isn't that easy. And people get mad when I say that. It's because you're not in the right place to earn $1 million because of the childhood trauma and the mindset that you have right now. That's the only thing. Any guy on stage, who's well known, they've all been through it. They've all through in this company. You can literally achieve anything you want to achieve. And do you know what they used to say to me is that when I first came to this country, I used to preach this. You can do anything you want to do. And all the things the Americans would say to me was, well, I can't be president of the United States. They would all say that, trying to put me wrong. Uh, let's look at our political views for a second. We had a freaking businessman running the country with no political experience whatsoever. He still is, but first time around, no experience. Don't dare tell me you can't achieve your dreams. It's just not true. Somebody's put that there. It is not true.
And it's interesting people say that because like that's what this country is built on, right? The American dream is that it is, yes, I can come here from anywhere in the world and achieve what I want to, right? Like that's interesting that you got that much pushback. But I think some of that is also you get weak-minded people doing some of that stuff where it's that negativity usually stems from something else, whether that's someone who's unhappy in their life because they're not disciplined or they, they don't have the drive to do those things. And it's yes, I get the other side of that. You're like, yeah, that's kind of wishful thinking with things, but it's not going to be a jump from 0 to 100 in terms of 0 being the where you're at and then the 100 being the end of like what your ultimate goals would be. But it is, I don't know. I think that's kind of a bit way to think. You're like, well, I better I'm gonna shoot this down without stopping and thinking
Yeah.
about it and actually analyzing my own behavior. But
That is the basal ganglia self-sabotaging. Because if I ask anybody, give me a reason why you can't be, and money's always if you think money's gonna make you happy, guys, fucking doesn't, believe me. But let's use money. Uh, you want to earn $1 million. Give me one reason why you can't. Well, that's an excuse. Give me a reason. They can't give you a reason. And then what I tell them, if we went to court tomorrow, you bring all the evidence that you can't earn $1 million, and I'll bring all the evidence that you can. And do you know what the judge is going to do? He's going to throw you out of court because you have one piece of paper in your bullshit hands, and I have boxes and boxes and boxes of evidence, groundbreaking research evidence that you can succeed. But we take the route from our past. Well, my dad was right. I tried my business, but I failed. Do you know how many times the Beatles failed? Do you know how many times J.K. Rowling got told to go home, look after your kids on the project, and shut up because you're a woman? How many times you got told that? So if you try something and fall down, it doesn't mean you're not capable. It just means you're not ready, and you need to learn something else because there's something bigger coming on. I'm 64 years old, so but 60 years on this earth of knowing what's going on, I can categorically tell you that this is 100% what can happen to anybody listening, unless you have severe brain damage, of course. Anybody can be anything, anybody, anytime in the world. There's a pattern and a procedure and a programming to it, but you can. But we fall into this. It's like if I get depression, what do I do? Go to the doctor. Okay, I go to the doctor. Uh, it gives me depression medication, which is a false serotonin. First of all, why is nobody asking why my serotonin is low in the first place? And then we get them coming in. They go, Doctor Rob, oh my God, I think you have I'm depressed and stuff. Oh, how depressed are you on a scale of 1 to 10? About 9. Okay. Do you take any medication? Yeah, I take blah, blah medication for
do you
depression.
exercise? What does your diet look like?
This is it. That we the doctors don't answer that.
Yeah.
So I say to him, how long you been on it? Oh, 5 years. When the fuck did you think it was going to kick in? Because you've been taking it for 5 years now, and you're sat in front of me telling me you're a 9 on the scale of depression. You see, if we go to the doctor and he doesn't ask about your diet, your family, your work life, your exercise, you're just a high paid drug dealer. And that's what we have 9 out of 10 times. We've tried this going to psychiatrists. I can't concentrate. My guys will go in and pretend to be patients. And before they won't even look at them half the time, there's a prescription for Adderall. It's America, please wake up. I became American like 5 years ago. I take this shit very seriously. If America went to war with England tomorrow, I'm American. I keep telling people that. So I'm not saying you Americans, it's us Americans need to just start noticing what's going on, man. And realize that everything starts with us. Your relationship does not work, and it's probably if you change behavior, she changed behavior. That job at work. Well, listen, guys, I got something to tell you. If you go to a job and you hate your fucking boss, or you're going home every night and walking on eggshells with your partner, get another partner or get another job. Well, it's not easy. It really is that easy. Stop living in that comfort zone, because that's where people die, in the comfort zone. There was a true story I tell every time at conferences. There was a young girl, 15 years old, slapped up the side of the street in Manchester back in 1968, no, 69. There was a huge manhunt out for her. Nobody could find him. A few months later, manpower was pulled off. 9 months later, there's a police car following another car down a country road, middle of nowhere. He had a broken light, so the police pulled him over. How the police trying to find your car, because there's no PNC back in the day, police national computer, is you say, what's in the trunk? Oh, yellow jacket, pair of boots. If they opened it and it was there, it's your car, go on. But they said to this guy to say him, and he couldn't tell them. When they opened it, they found a stolen screwdriver. So now they're allowed to go back to his house and see what else he's stolen. And surely enough, there were lawnmowers, there were drills and everything. Then they saw a box in a corner. It's about 4 foot high by about 12 foot wide. And the police said, we know you've got more stolen stuff in there. So they smashed the lock on. And when they opened it, there was the girl that went missing 9 months ago, the schoolgirl. She was
Jesus
beaten,
Christ.
true story, beaten. She was battered, but she was alive. He used to take her out every day. He used to obviously rape her, bathe her, food her, and back in. That she did that 2 or 3 times a day, man. The policewoman leant over. She held the girl's hand and she helped the girl step over onto solid ground. She took a police coat and she wrapped it round the girl. What's the first thing the girl did? She got back in the box. And that's what we do with life. That's what we do. We keep get back in that fucking box, guys.
Well, that's why people, people who have spent their lives, grew up in horrible places, everyone around them went to prison, so they've always gone to prison. Like, that's why they keep going back to prison. It's what they know. And yeah, obviously they're doing shitty things too, but like a lot of that is, it's these cycles because that is the norm for us. And it is, yeah, and it's
Learn behavior.
unfortunate. Yeah, it's unfortunate
So
because like,
we did this experiment and it's been done before. But we do everything ourselves if we see something. We bought like, and I don't know, years ago, 500 fleas from a local pet shop. They thought it was weird, but we ordered 500 fleas. And then we got this huge mason jar and we stuck them in the mason jar and we poked holes in the top and we left them for 3 days. Interesting, yeah. Then we went back and we screwed the cap off and we left the cap off. Not one flea jumped higher than where the cap was, which was interesting. But when they started to breed in that jar,
the
not one
next
of the
generation.
babies would jump higher than where the cap was, and they'd never even seen the cap. That's learned behavior. So we'll only go as far as people have told us, family and friends told us we will go. We daren't go, and the young fleas daren't go as high as they can because the parents have told them that this is the height we can go to, and that is it. Even though fleas can jump 2 or 3 feet in the air, it's that learned behavior and enmeshment from parents or caregivers, and it's nobody's fault. Everyone wants to pay the parent. No, there's no handbook that comes with new children, and this is only new discoveries that we found about childhood trauma. So we came up with this statement, and some people want to fight us on this, and I say, go prove it wrong. Anything less than nurturing as a child is child abuse. And I'll tell you where we got that from. My professor sent me to the zoo for a year to watch primates. And you look at the way life is today when the kids come home from school, you go straight upstairs on the computers, the iPhones, the iPads, you get shut down for dinner. It's like the nurturing has stopped. And I know people have to work. Me and Janet have to work every single day. But there's nurturing when it's nurturing time. Instead, we just kind of most people have kind of walked away and give the responsibility to other teachers, nannies, iPads. Just they push that responsibility away of taking care of them when they come home from school. And we see this time and time again. And what I say to them is, show me a kid that gains more than 4 hours a day, and I'll show you a future addicts.
Yeah, I mean, it's not deterministic that that's the case, but yeah, I see where you're going with it.
Learn behavior. That's all it is.
Yeah, and
Addictions
it's that
cross.
cycle of like, okay, I'm gonna keep just hitting the dopamine button. I'm gonna keep scrolling on TikTok and whatever else. Like, it is, it's a weird time, and it's hard to say that because I think that's probably always the case, right? I think the
Yeah.
people living in it are always in a
Yeah.
weird time because being
Yeah.
human is fucking weird. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it is. It's hard because on the other side of that is like we have more access to information than we ever have before as a collective, as a whole, like the human race is just so tapped into everything. And there's like with everything else, there's costs and benefits to it. And it's figuring out how to ride the middle there
Yeah.
as is everything else in life. It's all kind of boils down to the same simple principles that are, when you just look at them objectively are simple choices, but enacting them is a lot harder than that. But what else, man? I mean, do you have anything else that you're working towards announcing here soon? I mean, I know you kind of are. It sounds like I'll have to wait a little bit to get some more details on these developments that it sounds like might be going on. But Where can people find you? What else do you want to throw out there before we start to wrap this up?
Well, talk about my experience. When I talk about stuff like you can be anybody you want to be, I'm a big believer in that. So about 18 months ago, my sister came over and she's like, "Oh my God." Last time I saw her, I was homeless, by the way. "Oh my God, this is your amazing life." And so I said, "Why don't you come over and we'll open an English tea shop?" So 3 weeks later, they called us saying they sold everything, blah, blah, blah. So we brought them over and we started an English tea shop next door to my offices. We bought the premises and it's called the Old English Tea Shop. None of us had any experience in any kind of restaurant, cafes, nothing. None of us cooked. And that is a thriving business right now that we're going to franchise. We're going to be franchising Breathbox, which is the 9-dimensional headwear that we do online. My other 2 businesses are great. I feel great. My wife's amazing. People around me are amazing. I just think living this life. Somebody said to me, like I'm 64 now, but when I was 60, uh, somebody said to me about time, like, "Come on, things you got time, blah, blah, blah." And I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, how old are you?" I said, 60. He said, "What does the Bible say?" Just let's take the Bible, for instance. He said, kind of mocking. She's 75. So the average 75-year-old is almost done. And I went, "Yeah, okay, I kind of agree with that. Yeah, most people around 75 in my family have died. Then you have 15 Christmases left." And I was like, "What?"
That guy sounds like a cunt.
I was like, "What?" Um, but it's true, man, because everybody thinks we have time and we don't have time. Mums, 1 minute I'm waving them out to kindergarten, the next minute I'm waving them out to college. Time is so precious. Like when we started this podcast, we're never going to get that time back again, man. So I urge everybody listening to this and watching this to slow down. Smell them roses, slow down, slow everything down for today. We only have today. Remember, we can make plans, but I don't know how many people yesterday died that had plans for today. Plans are good. But what if we live today? What if we be that best person? Many years ago, well, about 7 years ago, my parents died. And we were over there, me and my friend and my sister, clearing out the house for sale. And my friend opened a box and he said, "Oh my God, look at these photographs." And he pulled a photograph of me and him when we were bodybuilders, young kids, about 16, 17, and we had big arms and a little tiny waist. And he said, "Oh my God, well, look at us. We were beautiful, man." I said, "I know. Oh my God, those were the days, Rob, weren't they?" And I said, "They were, but we didn't know it then. We didn't know those were the days. We didn't know how amazing we looked. What if today's one of those days?" And I've lived by that principle since that happened 7 years ago until this day, and I continue. What if today's one of those days? What if it's today that's one of those days that you can look back on in years to come and go, "You know something? It's right then," and realize that I'm not going to wait to retire to enjoy myself. I'm not going to save up for that I'm going to do it now. I'm going to ask that girl or guy to marry me now. I'm going to buy the house now. I'm going to do it today or as quick as possible because tomorrow never comes. And I think when you live like that, I think life takes on a new meaning, which is very, very good. Compliment people, lift people up always. Even when I do a Saturday morning study talk with homeless people in a homeless shelter. I've been doing it for 10 years. No, 6 years. I've been in Dallas, San Antonio. My father died on a Thursday, and I went in there Saturday to do the same talk. It was brilliant. They applauded. Everyone, it was great. When I come out, and my son said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Father died Thursday." Like, holy fuck. Why didn't you call me? I could have filled in. No one else's business. What I go through is I'm not going to inspire you by telling you my war stories. I want to inspire you. I want to be the guy that you heard one thing, like that, like the guy heading to a Golden Gate Bridge, threw himself off and committed suicide. When the police pulled him out of the water, they found his ID. They went back to his apartment for next of kin. What they found was a letter on the table. True story, guys. Go and look it up. The letter read, "I'm going to walk to the Golden Gate Bridge," which was an hour's walk, by the way, guys. "And I'm going to throw myself off, commit suicide, unless on the way there, somebody smiles, says good morning, nods their head, anything like that, that show me that they can actually see me and I'm alive. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to come back and try again." So the question to the audience before we go, How many people have you walked past today who's heading to the Golden Gate Bridge?
Yeah. Well, I can't see anyone that I walk past, so I get a pass on that one. But no, no, it's interesting that you said all that. Like I've and I wrote about this in my book, which I just handed off to my editor today. But I thought about a lot about this, especially. So I got diagnosed with Huntington's disease like 2.5 years ago. It was literally while I was at rehab trying to get sober. I got the call that I did have it, and it was like, fuck, man. Like, that guarantees that you are on an accelerated timeline, and it also guarantees that the last years of your life are horrendous, and that you end up basically as a vegetable before something else kills you. And as I like that part of that same mindset that you just mentioned is a lot of what helped me get sober outside of, as when I became a software developer and got my first business off the ground, it was like I had my identity back after losing my sight, but it was also that like I'm on a shortened timeline here. I'm not going to waste that. And I also at the same time, I was confronted by my mortality at 23 when I shot myself. And I'm like, I have a second chance. I'm going to make something of this. And it's weird. I had to be reminded of that, what, 4.5 years after I shot myself in that moment of like getting diagnosed with Huntington's disease. And it's ridiculous that we have to be reminded of that. And I'd be curious to talk to you in 5 years and know if like you've had to be reminded of that again. But it's a thing that we are all conscious of and aware of, but we forget. We get caught in the chaos that is life and forget about these simple truths that everyone knows
Yeah.
are the truth.
We get two lines in one lifetime. That's what alcoholics and addicts get, or people like you that's gone through horrendous stuff and now been diagnosed. We get two lives in one lifetime, man. In some kind of way, I wish I knew that, at the age of 75, I was going to pass away, because it's just an amazing life, man. And it's so precious, and you have to fit as much as you can in and stop putting shit off till tomorrow. And, I ask a question to my guys: what's the one thing you'd regret saying if everyone died around you right now? I forgot to tell, my wife I love her. When did you do it last? Oh, a few days ago. Stop that shit, guys. Tell them now. Tell them that you love them. Tell them that you care. Them. Hey, Johnny, all my staff will tell you. Hey, Janet, great job today. I didn't really do a great job. You see her walk away, she's got a pep in her step. That's what it's about. And if you don't believe me, guys, the next time you're in a built-up area of people, sneakers are always the best. How to change the world in 2 seconds with 2 words. Nice sneakers. He'll go, oh, thank you, man. Turn around and look at him. When he walks away, he's looking down at his sneakers at least 2 or 3 times. Now you put him in a different headspace. Now he goes on to the girlfriend or wife because he's in a great mood. Now she's in a great mood. Then the mother-in-law calls, and you get the gist. 2 words: nice sneakers. That's all it takes. And because I know this, Zach, I believe in God, like I said before. And it's funny you should say about God, how God feel about the car. When I get to heaven, do you know what he's not going to ask me? How much was that car? How much was that house? How much was them Rolex watches? He's going to ask me one thing: how many people did you help, Rob? And I want a big number, Zach. I want a big number.
And I think that's the other piece of that is like you said, obviously you put it externally, like putting that out into the world, but it's also when it comes to internally, it's focusing on what you do have and not what you don't. It's focusing on what you
Yes.
can do and not what you can't. And like I again, it's like very simple things
Yeah.
that just people kind of get away from. And I think that's, I don't think anyone would really disagree with that. I think that's the big harmful side of social media is that it leads to all of that comparison and especially when it's synthetic stuff that you're seeing that's like, an artificial presentation of someone's life that then now someone else is comparing themselves to. But it is draw your awareness back into yourself there and just keep your nose on the grindstone with whatever you're plugging away on and enjoy the people around you and the things that you have accomplished and the things that you're working towards and stop. Yeah. But just try and center yourself a little bit. It's the awareness. It's the meditating. It is whatever you need to do to stop and like, just draw your awareness inwards to what matters.
Yeah.
Um,
One of these. Just stop there.
Yeah. What's your website? Where can people find you?
So if you're listening or watching, guys, Stamina with two B's, ROBBKELLY.com. Dr. Robb Kelly in any search engine, up or come, all the socials are there. I don't run my socials. I do run my Facebook Messenger. So if you want to message me, we'll message back, we'll friend, we'll do all that great stuff. There is a book out there on Amazon. It's called Daddy, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. The last thing my daughter said to me. I got 10 copies free just for this program. So if you contact us, either Zach or I will sign the copy. I'll send it free, pay for the shipping and all kinds of stuff. So there's that going on. And last but not least, if you're in that place, guys, that Zach and I sort of touched over, that suicidal place when you think everything's gone wrong and nobody cares about you, and you're in that, in that room, just ready to do it. 214-600-0210 is my personal cell phone number. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to text me now, and I will text you back almost immediately. Then I'll call you and arrange a 15-minute pep talk with you that'll change your life. If it doesn't, I'll send you $100 for wasting your time. Because here's the deal. I would rather spend 15 minutes on the phone with you than hear of your death next week. In the trenches, guys, all the time.
Yep. There's also the crisis line at 988. I've called that before. It's usually you have to speak up. No one can help you if they don't know that you're struggling. And, not speaking up is what got me to pulling trigger when my gun was to my forehead. You don't need to go through that. So speak up. Dr. Robb Kelly, thank you. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for being vulnerable. Thanks for sharing everything. Thanks for the work that you're doing, man.
Thank you, Zach. You're amazing. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.
And thanks everyone at home for listening to another episode of Going In Blind. Remember, my book is on the way. So go to my website at zachtidwell.com, join my mailing list, and I'll let you know as soon as it's out. Remember, be sure to subscribe and rate and review the show wherever you're listening, and then share this around with a curious mind who needs to hear it.